$353 million down the drain. That's how much this New York Mets roster costs this season. And yet they've only won 36 games halfway through the season. Now currently I want to say they're third in the NL East and a pretty good spot out of first place. I'm pretty sure they're 17 games behind the red hot Atlanta Braves. So I doubt that they're winning the division this year unless things start to change after the All-Star break. And that has happened in the past, but it probably won't this go around. So the New York Mets are heavily underperforming, and it seems like every time Steve Cohen tries to make this team better, it kind of backfires on the guy. Now, if you don't know who Steve Cohen is, he's the new owner of the New York Mets, an American hedge fund guy, pretty boring, billionaire stuff, whatever. Anyway, he bought the team 3 years ago on my birthday, actually, and since being the owner of the New York Mets, his team has made the playoffs once. Now, the first season was pretty bad, but, you know, that's what to expect from a franchise with a new owner. The second year, though, they won 101 games, which was last season. They had a phenomenal regular season, and then their postseason failure came. I'm pretty sure they lost in the wild card, and I talked more about their playoffs failures right here in this video, so go check that out. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about the 2023 season and how that's been going for the New York Mets so far. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. It's been rough for the New York Mets since day one because their star reliever, Edwin Diaz, yes, the guy who came out from sick mariachi bands playing in the background as he walked into the field, that Edwin Diaz has been injured since spring training. The guy hasn't played a single minute of baseball this season, and I doubt he even will. I don't know when he's supposed to come back, but I'm pretty sure he's out for most of the season, if not all of it. So that was a huge loss for the Mets. And then going into the season, they didn't have Justin Verlander. He wasn't ready. He got a little injured and banged up himself. And Max Scherzer, their other ace pitcher, he gets a 10-game suspension. So things are just kind of up in the air and ugly for the New York Mets. But that's not even the worst of it. I mean, the worst of it's been in the month of June, where they really have gotten onto this, you know, this pretty long losing streak. And it's not even like they're getting blown out or anything. They're just losing games because of simple errors. Hell, I saw them lose a game the other day because of a Francisco Lindor error. And then Brandon Nimmo, on a separate game, you know, drops a ball in the outfield. You've seen the clips. And then, oh, don't even get me started on the game from a few days ago where the Mets pitcher hits like 4 guys in a row, walks a bunch of batters, gives up the lead, and then the New York Mets end up losing that game. So it's just been, you know, terrible errors after errors in separate games where the Mets, you know, they took themselves out of it. It's not like other teams were beating them. They were beating themselves, which is really what's been happening the entire season. And there's nothing manager Buck Showalter can seem to do about it. And by no means is it their manager Buck Showalter's fault. I mean, Buck Showalter is a fantastic GM, and he's been around the league for a long time. He's not a bad GM by any means. Hell, in his first year with the Mets, they won 101 games. So I think that says a lot to the kind of GM he is. He's a really good one. So I wouldn't put this year's failures on him, but more specifically the players they're paying. Now, like I said, Edwin Diaz did get hurt, so that's $20 million down the drain right there. Unfortunate. And then you got Justin Verlander. 40 years old, and the Mets gave him a huge bag. They decided to do that before retaining Jacob deGrom. I would much rather, as a Mets fan, not as a Mets fan, but if I were a Mets fan, I would much rather have had the organization try to retain Jacob deGrom than go out and sign Justin Verlander, just because deGrom's like a homegrown kind of guy. You already lost Noah Syndergaard. Steven Matz is out of town. Zach Wheeler's gone. So deGrom was like last of the old regime. And he was really cool to watch on the Mets. Sure, they kind of wasted his career. Those years he won the Cy Young, the Mets weren't really good. But, I mean, maybe it wasn't even that the Mets lost him, but that he wanted a change of scenery, so they let him go. I don't really know the specifics around that. But what I do know is that they brought Justin Verlander on a huge contract. And I don't want to say he's underperformed, but he hasn't lived up to expectations. Let's keep it a buck. The team is bad because the players are struggling. Hell, Max Scherzer got that 10-game suspension. That's kind of thrown him off his groove. Max Scherzer hasn't pitched the best, but this is his second year, unlike Verlander. This is his second year with the Mets, so he's been on the team for a little bit. Now, I don't want you to think that Scherzer and Verlander are the only guys the Mets have in their rotation. They've got a couple other pitchers too, like Kodai. He pitches with the signature ghost fork or whatever. He arguably would be one of, if not the best starter for the Mets so far this season. He's been pretty good, 30-year-old rookie. So, you know, he's come in with the Mets organization. He showed up and showed out. He's got, I want to say, the best ERA out of the starters. So, you know, Kodai, let's give him a round of applause. Kodai's been good. Then they also got Tyler Megill and David Peterson. I'm going to group those guys together because they've been on the Mets for a little while now. And they're not like high notable names, but if you're a Mets fan, you know who they are. I want to say David Peterson has had a rough season. His ERA is kind of high. Tyler Megill has also kind of struggled, but you know, what can you do? I mean, the team is bad, so obviously their starting pitching shouldn't be that great, right? That adds up 1-to-1. And the other guy I haven't come to mention yet is Carlos Carrasco. Now, a Cleveland Indian legend. I should say guard. No, when he was on the team, they were the Indians, all right? So, Carlos Carrasco on the Indians, animal, beast. On the Mets, however, he hasn't really performed the same. So, you know, there's that. He hasn't played the best this season. He's had 10 starts, and in those 10 starts, he's got about a over 6 ERA. So, Carlos Carrasco isn't where he once was. Also kind of underperforming, which kind of hurts the Mets. And that's not even getting into their relief pitchers. I mean, Adam Ottavina, I just saw him give up a game yesterday. Come on, Ottavina, what are you doing? I mean, the Mets have been trying to rely on a couple of other pitchers they're not used to relying on because Edwin Diaz is out, so that kind of hurts them a lot. David Robertson, that's what I was thinking of. David Robertson's actually played really well for the Mets compared to the other guys, so shout out David Robertson. Same as Kodai, you know, those are some of the Mets' best pitchers. And then we've got the offensive side of things, where we've got guys like Pete Alonso, longtime player, Jeff McNeil on the New York Mets. Francisco Lindor has got a huge bag. He's kind of been underperforming. I mean, the team's not playing well. Brandon Nimmo, Mark Canha got the bag of, I want to say this offseason? Mark Canha got paid, Starling Marte. You know, they're throwing out a lot of money to guys who aren't really playing well. Hell, Tommy Pham is on the bench. I remember Tommy Pham. He was like 11th in MVP voting like, almost a decade ago. But I remember Tommy Pham. He was nice. They've got a lot of talent on this team, and nothing's working. I can see why Buck Showalter is so upset in these press conference interviews, because there's so much talent, and they can't figure it out. Anyway, that was it. I just wanted to discuss what was going on with the Mets. You know, they're playing not up to par, so I just want to talk about it. Plus, they're New York, so bound to do good, right? Catch y'all later. Much love. Deuces.